my goodness, we have trick-or-treaters. It's so early in the day.
Trick-or-treat.
Oh my goodness, aren't you just the cutest? You're just getting started, huh?
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
Our first
So what are you, little girl?
I'm an 80s girl, and my costume is totally, and the name of it is called Totally Awesome.
Oh, wow. And how about you?
Evie from Descendants, and it's called Evie.
Oh, nice. Well, today we have some organic apples.
Yummy.
They're organic.
Yummy.
Better when it's organic.
Yeah.
Yes. Aren't you excited that you have apples for trick-or-treating?
Yeah.
And don't you worry, we have glow-in-the-dark rings for later.
I guess, thank you.
And ladies, reject the candy. It's bad for your belly.
Ugh, okay.
Thanks so much for tuning in and hanging out with me on this Halloween. This is a special edition of the Nikki Jencen Show coming at you on a Tuesday. Oh, excuse me. The chicken has something to say.
There's a new show that comes out every Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time.
Dr. Kendra!
Yay!
Thank you so much for being with us today. You have some ways that we can detox our kids from Halloween candy. You have kids, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So when we feed sugar to our kids, they act all crazy and, have all different symptoms. But I think that it's important for us to understand what's going on in our children's body and how we can get the garbage out as soon as possible. So, Dr. Kendra, thank you so much. So after a sugar binge like on Halloween, what can parents do to detox their kids?
Well, before we start talking about the sugar binge, let's talk about prevention, right? As a naturopath, we should always start talking about prevention. So for me, with my kids, it's like the fate worse than death. If particularly my son, if he gets too much sugar, he turns into a child I don't even recognize.
Right.
So I really, really try very hard to avoid it. Because you have this open dialogue before Halloween even starts. Because I think even as parents, there's this big workup around Halloween. There's costumes and candy and things like that. The discussion that I had with my children is adults, in some cases can tolerate, higher amounts of candy, or they make better choices with their body. I'm not a huge Halloween fan anyway. I try to avoid the whole thing altogether. And that's also, kind of an open dialogue that parents can have with their kids about what the holiday is really about. And if you even want to celebrate with your children or as a family. So that's kind of my first thing is, you just kind of get it out of the house. What I find is as kids get older and they're not exposed to a lot of sugary treats and things like that, their bodies don't end up craving that. When their bodies don't end up craving it, it doesn't become something that, they pin all of their hopes and dreams and excitement about, because it's something that it's not even, for example, it's like a non-smoker. Now, if you walk into a store and you see cigarettes and you're not a smoker, they mean absolutely nothing to you. So that's generally the relationship that I try to cultivate with my kids around candy, is that it's an insignificant relationship.
I love that.
Yeah.
I really love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
So it makes they don't even want it. And my kids are old enough now where we have these conversations with, when they see a child who looks like they're having a hard time, we'll have a discussion about that. So, because maybe it is food related for them at that moment. As far as the actual detox, what I always say to parents is sugar has a very short half-life in the body. It only lasts in the body, depending on the size and the age of the child, somewhere between 20 minutes and 3 hours. So the sugar is really the least of your worries. An active child is going to burn off that immediate sugar hit by running around because of the sugar, experience in their body. The bigger issue is really, the GMOs, which, are big, bad, nasty, chemical, basically actually chemicals, food that has been altered in a way that our bodies don't even understand it. The chemicals and the preservatives and a lot of the things that our human bodies, adult human bodies that are fully developed have trouble digesting and assimilating. Children with immature livers and immature, microbiomes and guts or digestive tracts have even worse trouble. So definitely, it's definitely something that is a force to be reckoned with, for sure. What you want to do for these kids is you just want to support their body with things that are supportive to the immune system, because we know that things like sugar can damage the immune system for a period of time, depending on how much sugar is consumed. As far as supplements, those things that help kind of support the immune system, especially when kids are in school, they're, not even going outside for recess because the weather's not great, all of those things will actually help and support an immune system for sure.
What about adding some detoxification supplements, such as some green algae, anything that's going to attach itself to the toxin and draw it out of the body?
Sure. Green algae will work. Minerals are amazing at chelating minerals that the body that's dangerous for the body.
Okay.
So you certainly could add those sorts of things in. But, for me, I'm a huge advocate of just make sure the gut's in good shape. You know what I mean? A good quality fish oil helps deliver high levels of oxygen to your cells, high quality probiotics that are specific for gut healing, because there's all types of probiotics, as you know. Every type of probiotic has a great benefit and in some cases a potential risk. So you definitely want to pick a probiotic that's really, really nourishing to the gut. A great one would be lactobacillus and all the different lactobacillus species, which is one of the reasons why it's so popular.
And for anybody listening, if your child has been on antibiotics for any period of time, you know that your child is going to be lower gut microbiome health, right, doctor?
Correct. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So my rule of thumb with probiotics is if a child has been on an antibiotic, you administer twice as much of the standard probiotic that you were using for twice as long. So if a child's been on an antibiotic for a week, for example, you do a double dose for 2 weeks. And so that's a really nice, kind of, easy thing to remember for parents if they have kids that are on antibiotics.
Right. For those who are going microbiome, I've never even heard of that. I refer to it as just the good guys, the good bugs that help support your immune system in the gut.
Right. Absolutely.
Good?
Yeah.
Good.
Heck yeah.
Good. All right.
When my son was little and he was, needing some physical exercise, we used to just say, you run around the house for as many years as you were old. So when you're 4, he did 4 laps. When he was 5, he did 5 laps. And it was a great way to kind of shake it out. So absolutely get those kids moving. It makes a huge difference.
All right. Yeah. So kids, get on that treadmill.
Exactly. Oh, please. With all that sugar, you'll want to run around anyway.
Go do 5 laps right now. Parents aren't going to stop the Halloween tradition. So I feel like all we can do is really adjust ourselves to the holiday and continue on and kind of buy candy with knowledge. What do you think is in candy that parents should really try to avoid?
So there are lots and lots of chemicals in candy. Well, and let me just say, I do think the culture is changing. I think in the culture of, anaphylactic food allergies and sensory integration disorder, we just had a local charity who did an entire Halloween event, costume party, costume awards, the whole 9 yards, candy free. The whole thing was candy free.
Okay.
So she was really, the coordinator was absolutely adamant about it. So she did a lot of like plastic trinkets. They did stickers, tattoos. And so, I spoke with her a week after the event and I said, I'm just curious, did anybody say anything to you about not having candy? She said, yeah, all the parents thanked me for not sending their kids home with candy. So I do think we are evolving, especially as parents are becoming more aware of the implications. But having that be said, for the kids that are going to get a high dose candy, there are 2 things that I always tell parents. First of all, you do the sugar detox before Halloween, right?
Snap.
Before the workup, right? So you start slowly getting rid of the yogurt covered raisins and the granola bars and things like that. And you start reducing the amount of sugar your kids are getting on a daily basis. Now, for me, I'm pretty mindful of what that number is for my kids, just because I've been a doctor for so long and I'm a naturopath and they just, are stuck with me. But, some parents aren't. But even things like yogurt is so high in sugar if you look at the containers of yogurt. So they're easy swap outs. You can use nuts or nut butter, or, I live in the Northeast, soup this time of year. And so if you do a 2-week quote unquote detox and reduce or eliminate the vast majority of simple sugars in your kid's diet, now they're going into Halloween, they're not going to have the tolerance level to eat all that candy, right? They're going to get full from it. They might not feel well. Some kids throw up, some kids get rashes. And so they'll have an opportunity to have the experience and kind of let it go a little earlier than they would have. So that's a great trick. The other thing is most Halloween activities are generally around dinner time, before or after, depending on how it works. So for me, I always recommend you just feed those kids, and you feed them with a good quality, high, good fat meal before they walk out the door. Because what happens when they have a lot of good fat in their diet, right? They're full. So they're not going to be so incentivized to want to go out and eat all this candy. And, every family has their own rules as to how they do it. Some, like my neighbor, she basically lets her kids eat enough candy until they throw up, and then they're not really inspired to eat anymore for the rest of the year. And she, gets rid of it. For me, like I said, we kind of have avoided Halloween altogether. So I'm a little bit of a different story. But, for some parents, they kind of allow their kid to have 1 or 2 pieces of candy every day for a couple of weeks. And then all of a sudden the bag kind of naturally disappears. So those are things that can be really, really helpful. But as far as the chemicals, there are all sorts of chemicals, TBHQ, BHT, all kinds of crazy letters in conventional candy. And all of those chemicals are not recognized by the body. They cause all kinds of allergic reactions. And I'm not talking about hives or throat closing, which is what we normally think of when we think of an allergy. I'm talking about more of an allergy inside the digestive tract, where there is an irritation. And when you have an irritation in your digestive tract, you might have diarrhea or a bellyache, or you might have an eczema flare, or you might have an asthma flare, or you might have a behavioral problem, right? Because we know that the good bugs that you talked about that are in the gut are the same good bugs that we find that cover the brain. So if we have an imbalance in our gut, well, we're going to have an imbalance in our brain. And clearly kids are more susceptible to that because their bodies have not developed into adulthood.
Give us a couple of steps that people can take to detox your kids.
Right. So sweating would be my number one. I think that's the best detox for kids, because now remember, their livers are immature. Their detox pathways are actually immature. So you have to be very, very careful about aggressively detoxing children with anything, with heavy metals, with lime, with whatever you're looking to detox. So I always follow, the processes of the body that are normal for the body. So sweating is number one. And that's
I'm glad you said that. I'm really glad you said that. Okay, great.
So the second thing is I use a ton of bone broth. Bone broth is immeasurably, capable of doing a ton of detox in the body. Now, remember, it has good fat in it. It has all the good minerals. It is viscous, so it helps the body kind of poop, for example. And so pooping, of course, helps us get all of our toxins out. And then the third thing I would do is probably look at some very specific strains of probiotics, because we know there are certain strains of probiotics that can reduce toxins in the gut. We know that there are certain strains of probiotics that can reduce ammonia in the gut, which is byproducts of some of the bad bacteria once they kind of get in there and take hold and start eating all the sugar and the chemicals that, are in the gut now for use. So those would be kind of the 3 things that I would start with. I would say the fourth, or 3A, is adequate sleep, right? We got to get these kids to bed, and we got to make sure that they are sleeping properly, because sleep is when the body repairs. So if there are toxins, irritants, allergens, whatever it is that's in that little baby's gut, we know that when the body is sleeping in good quality rest and REM sleep, that we have a ton of growth hormone that's then put forward for the cells to repair themselves. And so that's what I would say is one of the best things that we could do for our kids, really.
I love it, love it, love it. You have answered so many questions that are going to be such value for parents. I appreciate you so much, Dr. Kendra.
Yeah.
Appreciate you being on the show. I just loved your advice, your presence, everything. So appreciate you very much. Look for Dr. Kendra KendraBecker.com. Anyways, have a great day, and I appreciate you so much. And I will have all the links for everybody down below to contact you.
Awesome. Thanks again, Nikki. This was wonderful.
So now that you know how to detox candy from your children's body, I hope that you can celebrate Halloween for what it's worth and have yourself an amazing and safe Halloween. Wouldn't you agree? It agrees. Yep. It agrees. If you know the chicken's name that was featured in the latest Disney movie, Moana, comment down below and tell me what that chicken's name is. This is kind of a quiz for you mamas that have watched Moana 150 times. My hair is a disaster.
Halloween candy.
Oh, shut up, you stupid chicken. Be quiet. Until next time.